StrayAllDay.com.
You are now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques all underneath the umbrella of one unified philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is 3 personal disciplines that you should put to immediate use. But before we get into this, I remind you of 2 things. First of all, my daily motivation, Monday motivation text, which go out every day and week respectively, guaranteed to have you focused, sharp, and on point to start your day or your week. You should be getting those messages if you know what I know. Text me at my number 305-384-6894. And as soon as we start sending those messages out again, you'll be getting those straight to your phone. And you'll also have an option of telling us how often you want to receive them. Secondly, Work on Your Game University. That's the place where I do all my coaching. If you would like to be a member of our coaching program, have me as your direct coach, where you get on live calls, yes, with me, where you get to ask questions, get your questions answered, get the questions that you have replaced with better questions that will actually help you get to your goal more quickly and effectively. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. That's where you can see everything that we're doing in our program, everything that it's about, and you can get yourself started right now. Again, workonyourgameuniversity.com. All you got to do is go right to that website and you can get yourself started within the next 30 seconds. You can be a member of the university. You don't have to talk to anyone. You don't have to schedule a call. You go straight and join right now and get access to a whole bunch of our back-end university material right now. With that out the way, let's get into the topic, which is 3 personal disciplines to immediately put to use. Now, being that this show is all about personal and professional development, these are things that anyone can and should immediately implement into your life, regardless of what you do for a living and regardless of your level of ability or experience. Because the things I'm going to share here today, similar to yesterday's episode when we talked about the inescapable truths, things I'm going to share here today will always apply at every level at all times. No matter who you are, what you do, doesn't matter. These disciplines will always apply. They will always help you, and they will always be useful. All right, there are no exceptions. Okay, so as long as human beings exist, these principles that I'm going to share here are useful principles for you to utilize. Any questions? Good. Point number 1. Topic, once again, is 3 personal disciplines to immediately put to use. Number 1, show up. This is not a metaphor. Show up. What does it mean? Literally show up. Be in the room. Wherever you're supposed to be, wherever you want to be, wherever you believe things are happening and you want to be part of what's happening, guess what you got to do? Show up to where that place is. Don't expect that place to come to you. Don't expect those people to come to you. You go to them by showing up. Be where you are supposed to be and be present there. And again, supposed to is a operative term. When I say supposed to, that means based on your goals, based on what you want to achieve in life. You get to decide where you are supposed to be, and wherever those places are, be there. That's it. Now, you see how this can apply in any aspect of life? See, I told you that's what I was going to tell you, right? Things that apply in any aspect of life. Is there anyone listening to me here who has a certain goal in life and you know where you need to be in order for that thing to occur, and you would not do it, and you think it would be a strategic advantage to yourself to not be in that place? Of course not. If you're an athlete, you got to know where the gym is at and where the workouts are happening and where the games are taking place, and it's your job to be there. If you're a football player and there's a football game happening on Saturday, shouldn't you be at the field playing in the game? Of course. If you're a basketball player, you should be at the court. All right. If you're a lawyer, you should be in the office or in the courtroom. Whatever it is that you need to do and wherever you need to be in order to do the thing to get you closer to your goal, that's exactly what you should be doing. Showing up. You have to be there. Many people fall off and miss out on opportunities in life simply because they fail to show up when and where they should be. They just don't show up. As an athlete, for example, I saw a lot of athletes blow what would have been opportunity for them, and which led to created opportunities for people like me because they didn't show up, right? And many athletes I saw who were more talented than me, that's really what I'm referring to. Athletes who were above me on the talent totem pole, but they were not above me on the discipline totem pole. So when they stopped showing up and therefore they got taken out of the game through their own actions or inactions, that allowed people like me to kind of move up. So as I have told you all, there's a baseline level of ability you have to even be eligible to be a pro athlete. And then everybody who's above that baseline, out of all of us, we ain't all going to make it because not enough jobs for everybody to make it. So the people who are able to stick around and continually show up sometimes end up getting a spot that they otherwise would not have gotten had the people more talented than them kept showing up. And I fall into that category. Had everybody had my same level of discipline, I probably would not have become a pro athlete. There were enough of them who had more talent than me who would have gotten the spot that ended up becoming mine. I wasn't that talented. I was talented enough to be above the baseline, but I wasn't that talented to be like, didn't matter. It mattered for me. All the intangibles, they all mattered. The mindset pieces, the discipline piece, the mental toughness, the ability to market and sell myself, the hustling, all of that stuff mattered for me to make it as a pro athlete because I wasn't so talented that I was just head and shoulders above everybody. It would have been fun had I been that. And combine that with discipline, that's when you get Hall of Famers. Now, there were many of those, again, who had the talent that they should have made it, but they didn't, simply because they weren't showing up amongst other things that they didn't do. And again, the talent was not a question for them. So in sports, as I said, there's a baseline level, but there are people who are above it. And in the line of work that you're in, there may be a baseline level. And as long as you're above that baseline, you're eligible. Now you can combine all the intangible elements and hopefully move yourself up in the line just while you watch everybody else fall off, which is usually what happens. So when people fail to keep showing up, those who might be a little bit behind them can take advantage of that opportunity that they have left on the table. And again, in your space, you can do this. Showing up is at least half of the job, everybody. I remember being in high school, and my freshman year of high school, I went and tried out for the basketball team. Now, I come from the city of Philadelphia. So in the Philadelphia school district, many of the schools are, when it comes to sports, they're completely underfunded. Most of them are, at least when I was growing up. I don't know what it's like now. I don't know if any new money got injected into the budget, but I would guess probably not. The way it was then was that the basketball team at our school was just the basketball team. There was no JV team. There was no freshman team. It was just the basketball team. So everybody, all the young men in school tried out for the basketball team. Remember my freshman year tryouts, like damn near every boy in school was at tryouts. And my sophomore year, I didn't make teams in my senior year. The sophomore year, there were tryouts, and it was about, I would say, compared to my freshman year tryouts, there was probably about 60% as many people at sophomore year tryouts than were at freshman year tryouts. It's just less people. Now, again, people graduated and a whole new class of boys are coming to the school, but it was still only about 60% as many people tried out. I don't know what was happening with each group, but that's how it was. My junior year, even fewer people tried out. My junior year, it was about, compared to freshman year, we were probably down to about 40% of the people who tried out freshman year were trying out junior year. I don't know what was happening to everybody, but there was just fewer and fewer people trying out. And I'm not just talking about my class. I'm just talking about the whole tryout period. There were fewer people. And my senior year, when I tried out for the basketball team, it was very sparse. There wasn't that many people trying out for the team. I mean, you had the team itself, but then you had, I would say compared to freshman year, probably about 20%. About 20% of the people who tried out my freshman year in terms of just volume of boys who came to the gym for tryouts, about 20% of that number my senior year. And now, again, I'm not just talking about my class. In terms of my class, the numbers were pretty close. My senior year, it was hardly any seniors trying out for the team. All the seniors who tried out for the team, my senior year, we all made the basketball team. It wasn't that many of us, maybe 5 or 6 of us. All of us who came to tryouts were on the basketball team. Some were already on the team, and a couple of us made the team. The whole point is, because you keep showing up, sometimes the opportunity ends up falling in your lap because everybody else just falls off the mat. That's it. And you might not have even gotten that much better. Hopefully you are getting better because you're working on your game. But the fact that you're showing up sometimes is the opportunity in itself. Sometimes that's a skill by itself. Point number 2, today's topic, once again, is 3 personal disciplines that you can immediately put to use in your life. Number 2, show up on time. Show up on time. What I'm referring to here is what we call punctuality. Punctuality. And yes, this point is that simple. Can you show up on time where you're supposed to be and be dependent on to just be that person? Just, you are always show up and you always be on time. Can you just do those 2 things? You just be a person who shows up on time. Just showing up consistently, everybody, and being punctual can make you a valuable commodity, again, regardless of your skill or proficiency level. A lot of times in life, people focus so much on the skill level and the proficiency level. How good am I compared to him and her and them and they? And this is not to say being good doesn't matter. Of course it does. Again, my whole philosophy is called work on your game. So I'm not going to tell you to not be good at what you do. However, showing up on time and being punctual is a skill in and of itself because it's a practice ability. This can just be a discipline. Again, that's why the title of this episode is what it is. Just a habit that you can have for your life. You don't even have to be that good. Again, if you are known as someone who is consistent and you show up and you can be relied on, your value is high, even if your skill level is modest. If your consistency is high, your value is up, even when your skill level is not that great. People would rather have, many people, especially people in charge, would rather have an average performer who they can depend on rather than an unpredictable performer who is sometimes good and sometimes bad. I'd rather have someone who I know, at least I know what I'm going to get out of them. Human beings, remember, we are all creatures of habit, and we like to know what's coming in our lives. So you can be that thing that is coming, just like the train or the bus schedule. You know is coming at 8:27 every morning, and if you can be as consistent as that bus schedule, you become a valuable person in many people's eyes because at least they know what to expect from you. And again, people have habits, and if you can become a habit that other people have, they will value you regardless of your skill set. Because a really skilled person who is inconsistent, that becomes frustrating and anxiety and stress inducing for people because they can't set expectations. You can't plan around a person who is inconsistent. You can plan around a consistent person, even if they are consistently mediocre. You can at least plan around them because you know what you're going to get. A person you don't know what you're going to get, you can't make plans. You can't plan for the future with this person because you have no idea what you're going to get from them. It's like a mixed bag. So remember that as creatures of habit, we appreciate consistency. So be consistent. People value this a lot. It is an asset in and of itself that goes on your resume. I'm not saying you actually put this on your resume that I'm always punctual and always showing up. Maybe you get it. Hey, it might work. It might be a new innovation to resumes, putting on there that you're always going to show up and you're always going to show up on time. As long as you can deliver on that promise, then you're good. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is 3 personal disciplines to put to use immediately. Number 3, show up on time and ready to actually do your job. Show up on time, ready to work. This is the 3rd piece. Be ready to do the job that you are supposed to be doing. Whatever that job is, actually do the damn job. In college, one of my coaches told us that whatever time practice was, we needed to be on the court 15 minutes before that announced time. So if practice was at 4 p.m., we had to be on the court and ready to practice by 3:45 p.m. Therefore, if you walked in the gym at 3:50 p.m., you were officially late. How many of you have ever had people working for you who would show up to work, but they wouldn't be ready to work at the time that they were supposed to be? Maybe they took a good amount of time to get themselves warmed up and ready to do the job while at the same time they were technically on the clock. If you are the person in charge, you should not be tolerating this. Only requirement for you to not tolerate it is that you're not guilty of it as well. So as long as you're not a person who's always late, also always not ready to work, then you can't hold your staff accountable because they're going to see that. They probably have already seen it, and they're not going to listen to you because you don't have a leg to stand on when it comes to that topic of consistency and discipline and punctuality. If you're not those things, then who are you to tell somebody else what they got to do? Even if they work for you. And I'm not saying you can't tell them and they have to listen or at least pretend to, but you don't really have any, real, word is escaping me, but you don't have any real leverage with this person because even if they may not say it, they can see that you are inconsistent. So why would you and how could you fix your face to tell somebody else they need to be consistent when you're not? It's like I was reading this book by Dan Kennedy. He wrote a book called No BS Time Management for Entrepreneurs. Great book that I recommend to all entrepreneurs. And he talked about how some guy, a business owner, had hired Dan to give a speech on time management, the speech on punctuality and being on time and being ready to work. And when Dan got to this guy's town, the guy was supposed to pick Dan up from his hotel for a meeting or to bring him to the place where he was going to speak. And the guy who was hiring Dan was late to pick him up. And the guy was late to get into his own office. And he was often late himself, but he was hiring Dan to give a speech on punctuality and showing up and being ready to work. where the guy himself was not even honoring the very things that he was telling Dan that he needed Dan to teach to his staff. And Dan realized, and he explained this in the book, that I realized that this guy has, and when it comes to this subject, he does not have the integrity to wave his finger at his staff because he's not showing up consistent. So how are they going to show up consistent when the boss isn't even doing it? And Dan said instead he just did a different type of speech and didn't give a speech on time management because he knew the problem there was not the staff. The problem was the boss. And I don't know if he ever got around to telling the boss that, but he did put it in his book. So maybe the boss realized that he was the one being talked about. So you can't hold people accountable for something that you are not holding yourself accountable for. You can't tell other people be consistent when you're inconsistent. You can't tell other people go to the gym when you don't go to the gym. Even though that doesn't make you wrong. It doesn't make you wrong to say, like, if I'm a person who doesn't go to the gym, right? Let's say I don't go to the gym at all. And I meet somebody who's 50 pounds overweight and I tell them, hey, you need to go to the gym consistently so you can get in shape and lose weight and not die of a heart attack. And they say to me, well, Dre, why are you telling me to go to the gym? You don't go to the gym. Are they right to say that? Technically, no, they are not. Because the fact that you're 50 pounds overweight has nothing to do with my physical health status at all. I'm holding the mirror up to you, telling you the truth. Just because I am not doing the thing that I'm telling you to do does not mean that what I'm telling you to do is wrong. However, on a human level, most human beings are going to have trouble listening to you on a subject if they see that you are not even honoring the very thing that you're telling them to honor. People, we just have this thing with that. This is the subjective part of humans being humans, is that when someone tries to admonish you on a certain subject, first thing you're going to look at is saying, okay, are you honoring this? There was a commercial back in the day this is back when they used to have the war on drugs that was going on back in the late 80s going into the early 90s. And I guess in America, we ended up losing that war. For the most part, we lost the war. But there was this commercial where this kid, his parent, the dad apparently was confronting the kid and saying, what is this stuff? And he had basically found some drugs in the kid's bedroom. And the dad's asking, where'd you get this stuff? Where'd you learn how to do this? And the kid finally blurts out at the dad, well, I learned it from you. I learned it from watching you. And then a little message came on and said, parents who use drugs have children who use drugs. The point is, the parent could have told the kid, don't be doing drugs, and he would be right. That it's a bad idea to do drugs, right? But at the same time, the kid would not have been able to listen to the parent if the parent indeed was doing drugs. Like, how are you going to sit there and say don't do drugs when you're doing them? If it's so bad, why are you doing it, right? And people will do that to you. They'll flip it on you and say that to you, and they're right to flip it on you, where at the same time, you're right to tell them that you need to do the thing. So you're both right, and neither of you is helping each other because both of you are missing the point. All right, so anything that you're going to tell other people to do, in other words, you should probably be reflecting that or have a good explanation of why they should do it if it's not even in your space. Because this is what people do often, especially when, folks, you put people on the defensive. So if you're going to criticize someone on a subject, the first thing they're going to look to, this is what most human beings do, is they immediately get defensive and they look for a way to criticize you back. Or they look for a way to deflect from the criticism and put everything back on you. So you better make sure that you have your ducks in a row before you tell somebody else about their ducks. It's just how it works. It's just human nature. It's just how it works. So remember that through these 3 points, being present, being in the room, being functional, being prepared, these are all hallmarks of the professional. Okay, these are professional disciplines you can be using right now. The professional does something as their main paid occupation because they are consistently paid because their performance is consistent. Something can be your main paid occupation means you are consistently making money. And the only reason you consistently make money at anything is when you are consistently performing and delivering at that thing. If you think that your money is going to come in just because, okay, stop performing and stop delivering. Let's see how long you keep your job. Or you won't. So these 3 things lead to that consistent ROI because you are consistently doing the work. Let's recap today's class, which is, again, 3 personal, and we can call these personal and professional disciplines to immediately put to use. Point number 1, show up. Literally be in the room, be in the place that you're supposed to be present there, and do not be in all other places mentally while you're in one place physically. Number 2, show up on time. This is simple punctuality. Many people have a big issue with punctuality. Actually, most people have a big issue with punctuality. Most people cannot show up on time consistently to or for anything. Most of the time, the only way people show up consistently and punctually for a thing is when there is some penalty tied to them not showing up. Other than that, people just don't show up. It's just how it is. It's human nature again. And remember, anytime I'm telling you something that many people do, you can accept it as true, but also understand that that means you should probably look for ways to do the opposite of that. You don't want to have too much in common with most people. Number 3, show up on time and be ready to work. This is the third piece. Be ready to do the job that you were supposed to be doing and ready to actually do it and be in the place that you're supposed to be and do so consistently. This consistency, this discipline that you can have in life makes a huge difference in how far you're able to go over the course of many years and decades. Now, you may not see the difference from day to day, but it is making a difference, and over time makes a huge difference. We call this the separation day. I talk about this in detail in my book, The Third Day. If you don't have a copy of that book, you can get a copy for free. Just go to thirddaybook.com and we'll ship you a copy. Again, thirddaybook.com. That concept, again, is called the separation day. All that said, folks, make sure you are in my community. My number's down below in the description. Also, workonyourgameuniversity.com. That's the place I do all my coaching. If you would like to have me as your direct coach, and after listening to this, you should want to have me as your direct coach. And I'm telling you how to do it. Very simple, very easy. Just go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. You can sign up and be started and be in our text community within the next 30 minutes, or our group chat community, not our text community, group chat community of people who are members of our university. I'm looking in the group chat right now. There are 115 unread messages in there. So I have an assistant coach who's spearheading the conversation, but I'll jump in there as well. That's workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre, all